So, as information comes in, I've had to change my opening video quite a bit for a number of reasons. Now, many of you have seen a video that I posted live on Saturday, right now, just an hour ago, 2 hours ago, about 3 Point Blue Chip, what went on with 3 Point Blue Chip. Now, usually when we do those videos, they're geared towards the owners of 3 Point Blue Chip, but this horse means so much to the stable.ca and all of our clients, and represented us on a global stage, a world stage last night, Friday for you. I made it public for everybody. So 3 Point Blue Chip raced amazingly last night. If you've missed the video, the crux of the video is actually what we went through to get 3 Point Blue Chip to the races. You know, I've never taken as much time with a horse in my life. Was it because he was the most expensive horse we ever bought? I want to say no. I just felt that there was something, and I've talked to you guys about this. There was something in there, and I just couldn't put my finger on it. I couldn't wrap my head around it. You know, obviously I was hoping even a fraction of a horse that raced last night showed up. I would be happy to know that we have a horse that, for all intents and purposes, looking at 2022, he will be on the world stage in 2022. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I don't think there's any doubt in James's mind too, and James is a pretty grounded person when it comes to the horses, drives a lot of horses, you know, and he's like everybody else, he forms opinions. As we trained this horse down, we did have concerns, we did have worries. But as I told him, when I took the horse to Northfield, it just seems like there's something in there. Now, if that's just a stake horse and we have to grind some money out of him, okay, fine. If it's something a little bit more, cool. But I don't think either of us truly believed that in June, July of 2021, we'd be literally making plans for the Breeders' Crown. No, I don't think so. But that's the beauty of this game, right? That's the beauty of horse racing. That is what makes this such an interesting game, is that you can have this raw piece of clay that's a horse. And you can, as you mold it and take your time with it and let it grow, it could become anything. And that's what's so awesome about horse racing. Yes, we paid a lot of money for 3 Point Blue Chip, but, you know, we didn't pay a lot of money for a horse like Swandre the Giant. You know, he was a $17,000 yearling. And we didn't have to take our time on him, but as we molded him and got him to a qualifying point, it was evident that this was a talented horse, and we had luck with him. Lawmaker, again, White Tiger. These are horses that weren't expensive horses, and we'll talk about some of these horses today. But I think it's important to take a look at what just took place, right? Yeah, it was so hard for me to see him get beat in neck, and I knew halfway down the lane we were about to be, at best, photoed out. Maybe we'd win the photo, but it's unlikely. I could see what was taking place, the same as you guys. It was like that slow motion, you know, I can't believe what my eyes are seeing right now. This horse is about to be fourth, and I know he's got the third most amount of money. I believe one of our clients called me today and said he had the 6th or 7th fastest mile overall last night. Now that's important, because in my video that I posted about him, 3 Point Blue Chip bled a little bit last night. This has been frustrating me all year. Now, I'm trying to quantify in my head the information I've been receiving all year about horses. Duke Dio, as I said, in another video that was mostly meant for Duke Dio's group, because I don't want to talk about Duke Dio and then just give the information to everybody. It's not that I don't want the information. It's that if you don't own Duke Dio, you don't really need to know that he bled a little bit last night and they were putting him on Lasix. He come a slow last quarter. If you watch the race, you didn't have to be a genius or a medical doctor to understand that something just took place that wasn't good. Either he tied up, or he was sick, or he bled, or all three. Well, it might have been all three, but it was definitely the third one. So we entered Duke Dio on Lasix. Now with 3 Point Blue Chip, it was not as evident, right? In fact, it was the exact same story that went on with Unbeatable Kemp earlier in the year when Scott Zeron drove him. He was 4th or 5th. Oddly enough, the horse that won 3 Point Blue Chip's elimination last night was the horse that won Unbeatable Kemp's race the day that he bled. He bled a little bit more than 3 Point Blue Chip last night. And Scott got off the bike, and I was talking to him moments after the race. Within 20 minutes of the race, I was on the phone with Scott, and it was fresh in his memory. And last thing I said to him was, I'm going to get him scoped to make sure. He says, there's no way that horse bled. Don't worry about it. Because as a driver, you see the horse finish up strong, trot through the wire with speed. you don't think the horse bled. Why would you? Why would you think he bled? Well, he did. And I get the exact same story from James last night. I'm talking to him, and I said, you drove him great job with the horse. You know, the job that you've done with him, protecting him. I said, I didn't really, him and I kind of butted heads after the day he finished ninth, and it wasn't James's fault. I could see what took place. It was just, I had such high hopes for this horse. It's just a 10 hole in an age. It's just he never should have been put in that position, right? And that's another day, another dollar. We'll talk about that some other time. But just the way James has protected this horse and raced him, the way he needed to be raced. As a 2-year-old, being as mentally immature as this colt was training down, that is his trip. Leave, sit, finish. That's him. No first over, no front end. Eventually in his life, you could see on the front end last night, he was actually comfortable. But leading up to tonight, he was a very one-dimensional horse in the sense that was how you had to race him. Look at all his races. James drove him the same way because he knew him. That's why it was so important for James to go drive him. And then to drive him so good and just to watch it like a train wreck down the lane. The horse racing his heart out, racing so good. But he's about to be photoed out or beat a neck, and we're not getting in the final. And that was the reality that struck me at the tote board or earlier last night. And the horse raced good. James said, no, he's great. He didn't bleed. We scoped him. He did. So not a crazy amount. And I had a wonderful conversation. I'm a little embarrassed. I can't remember the name of the veterinarian I spoke to in New Jersey last night for a multitude of reasons. The rules in New Jersey regarding Lasix, the rules in the way that they affect him in regards to coming back here and racing or racing in another jurisdiction. There's just nothing is uniform in horse racing. You guys don't know that if you don't have horses and you don't race in multiple jurisdictions. You don't realize that every jurisdiction has their own set of rules. And many times they are not interchangeable with other jurisdictions. So we can put 3-Point Blue Chip on Lasix, which we did last night. And he could race next week in the Breeders' Crown if he happened to draw in. But if we didn't put him on Lasix last night, he could not race on Lasix in the Breeders' Crown final. Now, it's unlikely he's going to draw in the final, right? In fact, I don't even know if he's on the program. He's second also eligible. I hope he's on the program. That would be completely unfair, but what if they have a consolation? Again, he'd have to be put on Lasix last night. Because he was technically stabled in New York, in Goshen, with Amy and Jason, he had to be put on Lasix last night. Once he theoretically, and this is how she told me, once he theoretically crossed state lines, he's not allowed to be on Lasix in New Jersey anymore, which makes no sense. But that's the rule in New Jersey. Now, there's so much swirling around this horse still. Yes, even though I was so proud of what I saw him do last night, I was heartbroken that he got beat a neck to getting into the Breeders' Crown, when clearly, let me ask you this, he bled maybe a 1.5, 2 out of 5, right? How's he doing on Lasix? How's that horse race last night on Lasix? He's a bang-up second. Easy, in my mind. I don't know how you argue he wouldn't be. So a horse is a tremendous animal. He's going to have a fantastic year as a 3-year-old. But what does that leave for this year? We do have the Valley Victory, but it's top 10 money-earning horses. He's got nothing made. He's got like 12, 13 US made. We would have to prep him. So assuming he won that race, he'd have, 20 grand American made. He would have to get into a major stake race. Now it's at the end of the year, and a multitude of those horses are not kicking around. They're gone. They're turned out for the year. Now, I don't know whether one of our clients made the number up or not, but they said there's 13 horses ahead of him that would have to not enter to the Valley Victory for us to get in, which is very possible. Especially this time of year. If your horse is a little tired, or maybe your other horse, make no mistake. Take a look at the race last night. He's not the only one that bled a little bit. I guess I shouldn't say that. I didn't scope any of them, but, after knowing what I know, after scoping so many horses this year, very few stables scoped as many horses as we did, the stable.ca this year. That I'm certain of. And the information that we got, man, there's a lot more horses out there bleeding than you think. A horse like 3-Point, why would we scope him last night? The horse raced out of his skin, raced incredible. Twice this year, I had intelligent, top-level drivers tell me there is no way that the horse I just drove for you bled, and they bled. Unbeatable Kemp bled bad. 3-Point Blue Chip just bled. So there are going to be people that put their horses away. At the very worst, we have to enter the race to get all our sustaining and nominating money back. I don't mind that. I think that's a pretty good idea. Top 10 money earners get in, enter your horse. If you don't get in, but you have to enter, we'll give you all your money back. Super. That's awesome. Thank you. Only problem is, you have to be ready to race in that race. So in reality, we're going to have to prep 3 Point Blue Chip for a November 20th start. He is going to have to race on November 10th to 13th. We could turn him out. But this is the most important part of the conversation I had with the veterinarian. She was a thoroughbred vet, so she sees a ton of bleeders, right? Thoroughbred industry is riddled with bleeders. Horses that are on Lasix. And we could talk about the Lasix thing. I don't want to go down that path. I've done this video like 6 times, and I started down that Lasix path, and I'm like, nope, stop. We're not going down that path. Very insightful, the conversation I had with the vet. Not to mention just a clarification of the rules. She was fantastic in helping me with that. But her insight on bleeders, I said, ma'am, what's your take? So she knew what I was getting at. What do you think I should do? What do you think the stable.ca should do? You know, what conversation does Jason and I have about 3 Point Blue Chip? She said, well, I've talked to Jason. She goes, if you had asked me a decade ago, even 5 years ago, I would have said turn them out. She said, but we've had thoroughbreds that have bled a little bit at 2. We've turned them out, brought them back. She said upwards of a year, brought them back. And after 2, 3, 4 starts, they bleed again. She goes, I think just the speed and the physiology of any given horse, there is that potential to bleed. I said, okay. She goes, there's enough blood there. He should be on Lasix. Now, is that to say we turn him out, heal him up, bring him back at 3 and he never bleeds? She goes, it's possible. I'm not leaning towards that. She said, but it's possible. So I gave her the timeline, the Valley Victory, everything I just talked about with you. She said, okay, you can race him next week. She goes, it wouldn't be ideal. So a consolation, or if, heaven forbid, he get in the final. She goes, it wouldn't be ideal, but it would be a lot better than what he just went through. Ideally, you could prep him for that 20th race and it should be fine, but I would put him on Lasix. And then you get to race him on the 20th. Again, you're entering a program he should be on. Now, it's important to note, we saw a couple of flecks of blood in this horse before, but not nearly enough to say we should put him on Lasix. This isn't, you don't just see a couple of flecks of blood in a horse's throat and say, oh, immediately, put him on Lasix. Just, there's no need of it. There's lots of horses, we see a little bit of blood, we treat them up and there's no problem. But if that compounds and a few little flecks turn in a little bit more, then now you're on the Lasix road. And again, I don't care. We have a super talented colt. I even have more respect for him. After I'm off the phone with the lady, the vet, I have so much more respect for the horse in the race he just went, considering we saw this horse train down, and his attitude and work ethic was suspect from time to time. To see him go out, not only race his heart out, but race his heart out in such a manner that he fooled the driver that's seen him his whole life into thinking there's no possible way he is at anything but 100% physical capacity right now. That just goes to show you how this horse is transformed as a racehorse. How he's turned into such a nice horse that he could bleed a little bit. Still, try so hard that he fooled somebody that's been around him his whole life and sat behind him many, many, many times into thinking that not only he was at 100% or above, but that he has turned into the horse he's bred to be, that he's turned into the horse we need him to be. I'm going to tell you what, you put 3-4 more starts at high level into 3 Point Blue Chip, he's not getting beat ahead for second or for third or for fourth. You know, he's right there in the win photo. This is a legit top level colt, and that is the underpinning of the entire message. Yeah, we didn't make the final of Breeders' Crown. Okay. It's life. It's racing. Yeah, he bled a little bit. Okay, that too is life and racing. But the fact that he was that good while he bled a little bit, the fact that he was against the best horses in the world, and make no mistake, we had the toughest division by far. That's not saying, oh, it's unfair, we were in the toughest division. No. You want to be the best, you got to beat the best, whether it's in the elimination or the final. But make no mistake, neither of those other two divisions were even remotely as tough as 3 Point Blue Chip's division was. And I don't even remember looking at the time, and I don't care. I know the horses, I saw the races. There's some nice horses in there. But the best division by far was the one we were in. There's no arguing that point. And there was some horses in there. Keep in mind, we beat King of the North by 2-3 lengths. Right now, he's at the end of the year and he's tired, whatever. Periculum, another great horse. There's a number of horses in our race that were like, oh, I hope I beat this horse. And then you thought about it after, oh my God, what happened to that horse? We beat some of the better colts. So I couldn't be any prouder, one, of the horse, and two, of our staff. Both James and the people that trained down 3 Point Blue Chip, the job my wife put into him at Northfield Park. We took a horse that was questionable for the entire season. Took our time and allowed him to become the horse he was last night. And I couldn't be prouder of anybody than the people that worked in the stable on this horse. You know, the job that James put into them, the job that Amy put into him. Just a fantastic opera, from top to bottom, a great job. Now, it isn't reflected in the purse money earned, you know that. But at the same time, this isn't, you know, a bird in the hand worth two in the bush. We're looking for the bush. We're looking for next year. That's where all the top stakes are. It's nice and it's great to have a great 2-year-old, but to have a great horse is much more important. And 3 Point Blue Chip looks, from where I can see and from everybody else also, to be a world-class horse. And I'm sure he'll show that next year. So very happy, very proud of what took place. He is entered on the Lasix program. He likely will prep on the 10th or 13th, and it may very well be his last start of the year. But a super talented colt with a super bright future, and I can't wait to see what comes down the road for 3 Point Blue Chip. So there was that. We also saw Globetrotting race poorly for a third start in a row last night. It's just the way it is. You know, I talked to Ron last week. He thought that her blood was a little screwed up. He'd taken her blood. Her liver count was high. We've seen some of our horses with high liver counts that just can't function, right? They just can't function. It takes time. It'll come down, but it takes time. And, you know, she threw in a clunker last night and said, hey, I think we're just going to bring that filly back to Ontario, give her some time, get her blood perfect, get everything perfect with her, prep her a couple of times here. And right now, the classes are a little watery. You know, when you look at even where Aglariam, now obviously Globetrotting can't go in that class. It's structured as non-winners at 5 or 70 or something. But even from that class up to the top, right now there's some good horses here, but maybe they're not here yet. Maybe they're bouncing around, but I think there's lots of racing for Globetrotting here. And then at any point, we can always opt to send her back down to the States. It's not like Ron Burke didn't have good luck with her. He won multiple times there, put her mark on her in 52. I think she won twice in 52. Didn't she? Once with and without hobbles? Or one for sure without hobbles on, and then one by, you know, 5-6 lengths wrapped up for Dan Dubé at Yonkers nonetheless in 55. So she can do down there. It's just whatever's going on right now. It's just a matter of getting her right. And somebody messaged me and said, I hope she's not hurt now. Listen, I can tell you one thing. I've been around Globetrotting long enough to know one thing. She's as tough as they come. And you're not going to have to worry about her not bouncing back. Get her blood right, and I guarantee you she'll bounce back like nothing happened. That's how tough she is. She always has been. I suspect she always will be. So I have no concerns with Globetrotting. She'll be coming back to Ontario, I believe, Tuesday with Doyle from New Jersey, right back to Ontario. And we'll get her squared away. Take her blood, get a good look at what's going on with her, assess her physically, but I suspect she's not too far from getting back to where she should be, where she was, where she will be. Yes is in top flight. I'm talking about some of our best horses right now. Obviously, I'm super proud of the position we're in right now, but a real-time update of the horses. Yes has never been better than he is right now in his life. He drew the middle of the gate tomorrow. I am leaving here tomorrow morning, going to go to Ohio, going to race him, and I suspect he'll be very, very close again, very good again. He was awesome last week. He is still running in, but I said we can make a few little adjustments with his gear tomorrow to help him. I think you're going to see him be as strong as he's ever been tomorrow night at Northfield Park. High Gear, No Fear. Here's another horse. We schooled him on Wednesday. A little mucus, a few flecks of blood. I left it up to the veterinarian and Jason. I said, listen, he doesn't have to race Sunday. Like, he can race next Sunday in the same class. The whole point of this horse is get him to where we bought him to be. He raced great that first start for Tim, 4th in the Open. Then he come back and he made the break on Ronnie. It looked like he was a shoe-in that night. He made a break at the quarter pole. Then I raced him and I didn't like the way he raced. He raced a little flat. And he came up sick after the race, not shockingly. And then we prepped him, had him ready to go. Still little remnants floating around in his airway. I probably suspect that's where those flecks of blood came from. But again, we just talked extensively about bleeders, and I left it with, I have not followed up with Lauren, so it's my fault. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I told her just to reach out to the vet, reach out to Jason, talk about what's going on with the horse. If we race him, fine. If we don't, that's fine too. We can race next week. Don't race him if he can't win. So if you're suspect that he's good this week, then err on the side of caution and we'll scratch him. And that's probably what we will do for Sunday. It's not the end of the world. He's got next week. And then obviously at Glare AM, you know, her biggest problem right now is the calendar, is trying to get her in. The race isn't filled. Then they close the track. All we could do is train her a mile in 2:4 at the farm. Is she tight? No. How could she possibly be tight? You know, they close the track. They give you 24 hours notice that they're closing the track, and then the class doesn't fill for 2 weeks. That's super. I can guarantee there's at least 9 horses that are going to be short, that are going to be angry over this. So if you're training at Classy Lane where you can train in 55, great. If you're training at Tomiko Training Center where it's a half-mile track, and I'm not going to bust a Glare AM over a half-mile track, then you're at a disadvantage, right? My only concern is this. Don't give us 24 hours when you're going to close the track. Give us notice of 5 days. Just say, hey, from next Thursday on, it's going to be closed. We're going to let you train on Wednesday. Don't say on Friday, we're going to let you train on Saturday. And it was pouring rain on Saturday. So you can come train on Saturday if you want, 8 days before. And by the way, if you trained her the day before, prepping her for Monday and the class didn't fill, we can't really help you out. So a little upset over that. Glare AM is undoubtedly going to be short on Monday evening. But nevertheless, she is so sharp right now. And she had a splint. We've been, working on it. The one thing that this time gave us was time to cryo it. We cryoed it, so she should be, you see her running in her last few starts. She's got a splint that's been bugging her, nagging her off and on. We had that cryoed after we trained her last week when we realized they weren't going to race for yet another week. We went and cryoed that splint. So she should be, one, you're going to give away a little bit on stamina because she hasn't raced in three and a bit weeks. But two, we're going to pick up a little bit because she's not going to be on that line the same way she was before. And then White Tiger was incredible. I had somebody... God love our clients, the nicest people. So I had a guy message me and he says, no disrespect, Anthony, but why would you take James off of White Tiger and put yourself on him? Let me be as clear as I can. I don't care if I drive at all at Mohawk or in Ontario. I want to help out. I want to do my job. I went to London, raced Duke Dio. I don't want to drive that much. Why would I need to drive when we have the hottest driver in Canada, my brother, in Mohawk? I didn't take him off. He picked off the horse. Yes, little Judas. Won with him last week and then picked off him this week. That happens. James is James. I don't blame him. I would have done the same thing. So James picked off him. What did you want me to do? I could have listed Jody or Sylvain on him, but he is kind of a tricky horse too. I've driven him the odd time myself. So I'll drive the horse. He's 15-1 morning line, so he's taken a jump of at least 2 classes. But make no mistake, if he's as good as he was last week and he's as good as he was 3 weeks ago, they're not getting away on him. You can be sure of that. And I love nothing more than to blow by James halfway down the lane, give him a little smirk. So White Tiger is racing on Monday, and he's racing great right now. A lot of people had criticized me for hanging on to him when we were getting rid of other horses. A good open trotter and a good horse, he might not be an open trotter, but a good horse like him is really hard to find, right? And there's a lot more racing in White Tiger. And as you see him at 4, 5, 6 years old, a horse like him will actually get better as he gets in. He's going to peak as a 7-year-old, maybe 6-year-old White Tiger. He's as good. He'll stay as good right up until then. And again, that's my job, is to see which ones are those types of horses and which ones maybe are not. So, White Tiger racing on Monday. Yeah, he's 15-1, but don't worry, he'll give him a little scare at some point. It was so great today. I had Steve Palermo come out to the barn, and Curtis. I didn't want to tell you guys, but I did ask Curtis if he could drone some horses today, mostly because I want to sell the shares of a number of horses that are there. They shouldn't have shares. If you guys could see what I saw, on the track, they'd be sold out. I told somebody today as I went on the track with Merchant Man. Peggy had come up to the fence, and I had told her about Merchant Man. I said, listen, there's 10 shares left in this colt. There shouldn't be any. And as I went with him, he's the only horse. I could go a mile in 2:45 right now with Merchant Man. This is like the 3rd time I've ever gone with him today. He was so impressive. As I went by, I said, I'm going to give you until Steve posts this video to buy those shares in that horse, and then there's going to be none left. Merchant Man looked as good as any horse could possibly look And I haven't talked about them much. We're talking about 10 shares. They're going to be gone. It's not like I have to make a big speech about Merchant Man, but he was super impressive today. Now, I wrote down the horses I can remember we went with. Now, these aren't like Curtis's videos. There was no back pads on the horses. Steve is like up high enough where he'd be at like the space station. He's up high, so it's hard to tell who's who. I'll try and label them best I can because I know who I went with. So the horses I went with, I asked Mario to go with a couple. Chris went with a couple. Mike Brown went with a couple. So we had Merchant Man was a standout. He looked incredible today. Another horse that surprised me, not surprised me, how good she looked was Silent Assassin. Harry went with her. She was good. Mario talking all morning about the two he went with. Definitely Una Madonna was fantastic. But the one he liked the most was Landing Strip. He was really enamored with Landing Strip. He said, this horse is incredible. I said, well, I made that video on Facebook last week, and that will tie into something I'm not going to tell you today. I'll tell you another day about something, another little piece of information I have. So Mario kept talking about Landing Strip, how nice he was. He looked beautiful also. He's got such a beautiful gait. Again, talking about that video on Facebook, it's a lose-lose to make the argument. For those of you who don't follow me on Facebook or don't know what I'm talking about, I posted a video the other day saying that it was my belief after watching a number of the sales this year that it's really difficult for smaller breeders to get paid properly. They get underpaid a lot of the time. And that's my subjective belief. There's no way to argue that, right? Because it doesn't matter what you pay for a horse at a sale. It's worth $0 after the sale. It's what it does after that validates your purchase or invalidates your purchase in some cases of how high the horse is. I looked at what I thought. Now, there was a very good argument made by a number of our clients and a number of friends on Facebook about how, no, that's what the horse is worth. That's fair market value in its own definition. You're right, I guess. And there's no way to argue it back and forth. Your points are all valid. And any no less or more than I think mine were. I felt that Landing Strip was worth a lot more than I had paid for him. It really doesn't matter. That's what they got for him, right? But I saw a trend, whether it be from Midland Acres or from any smaller consignments, is that I just don't think they were paid properly for their horses. Now, that's great for us, but at the same time, tough for them, right? It's really tough. And what happens is, if you continue to chop away at those smaller breeders, and if they get paid, and if that's fair market value, then that's fair market value, I guess. My concern was, if they continue to get underpaid, what happens is you build this power vacuum where these bigger farms are going to take all the money. They're going to suck up all the smaller consignments, and then there's going to be nothing left but, a few monopolies. And that's not what we want in horse racing. We need variety, diversity, and we need lots and lots of breeders. And it is somewhat concerning to me in the back of my mind. But again, it's subjective, and I may be wrong. I may be wrong when it comes to it. No one knows, and it doesn't matter. I'm happy with the horses we got. But in the case of Landing Strip, for the people that are saying Landing Strip or Tactical Landings just sold poorly, I bid on one that went for $200. So, no, I don't think so. Not all of them. Some of them. I think the ones that we bought, as I said, Landing Strip is a brother to Pinkman on day one. We bought him for next to nothing. I was prepared to pay a little more money for Una Madonna for our clients. She went for $100. We had $150,000 in our group to pay for that filly. And that's how we ended up with the other Tactical Landing, who I know they were very upset when we brought number 15, I believe, in the sale. She was number 15 in the sale, Horn Player. Went for $45,000, which I thought was low enough that it drug me out of the bar to go and bid on her. So I just thought that was not. And again, Concord is a small consignment in Lexington. Hunterton, Kentuckiana, Preferred. I know I'm missing some, but those three suck up a lot of the money. And a lot of the smaller consignments, I just thought, in my mind, if Hunterton sold Landing Strip, what's he go for? I just don't think it's $57,000. I guess that's how I quantified it in my head. And I could be wrong. Could be 100% wrong. So back to the videos. I was thoroughly impressed with Merchant Man. If you're out there, and it's almost November. There's no way to tell. I couldn't tell you in March or November. We were wrong about a lot of horses. We're right about a lot of horses. But dollars for dollars, Novembers to Novembers, Merchant Man has looked as good as any horse we've ever put on the track in November. That may mean nothing to you, and it should maybe mean nothing to me. I was just very, very impressed with Merchant Man on Saturday. Landing Strip, Mario was thoroughly impressed with. Now, heading into the time when I went out on the track with Merchant Man, all I could think about was how good Horn Player was that I went with earlier. She was awesome. She looks like a nice horse. It was interesting because Mario rolled up alongside me and he says, "Which one's that?" And I said, "It's Alarm Detector's sister." He goes, she trots just like him up front, which I thought was really cool. I mean, it means nothing, but it was really cool that he said that. I thought that she's put together like a real good horse. She got this big, powerful engine in her behind. Big rump, big ass end, and trots really, really nice. So Horn Player is an impressive looking horse. Slick Gated is Una Madonna. Very nice. She's smaller than Horn Player, but she's just floats over the ground. Mario said, "My God, she moves nice." I said, "Really good," because she's only got 2 shoes on. She'd ripped 2 shoes off. So she had her right front and her left hind shoe on, and she looked like she was perfect. Just a beautiful filly. Carter Michael Dio. I'm just trying to think. Horn Player looks great. Merchant Man looks great. Landing Strip looks great. But I don't know if anybody is as visually pleasing to watch as a trotter as much as Carter Michael Dio. I was going up on the track and Steve Palermo was there and he said, "Who's that one?" I said, "This is one half of the reason you ended up with the Muscle Hill filly," because I had told him when I bought, it's funny, the same family as Landing Strip, right? As I bought that filly by Muscle Hill, and I told Steve I'm looking at what I bought after day 1 and 2, and I said, "Geez, I got 4 New Jersey trotting fillies." And he said, "I'll take that Muscle Hill off your hands if you want," because he thought that obviously we got a great deal at $42,000, and I believe we did. And I said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I got my eye on two horses tomorrow. 2. These were the 2 horses I wanted: Carter Michael Dio and Merchant Man. In my catalog, again, I told you guys at the sale, very rarely I'll make a notation on my catalog that says buy this horse. Very rarely. Maybe 6 or 7 times a sale. I'll put buy this horse. Those were 2 buy this horses. And I said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. If I get these 2 horses tomorrow, I'll cut the filly loose to you." The hammer just dropped and he looked at me and said, "We're good?" And I said, "Yeah." So Carter Michael Dio, you're going to see it, what I'm talking about when we do drone. Now, I will give you a date. It's in the middle of my video, so it might be lost on you. November the 5th, which is a Friday, the day before we go to Harrisburg. Curtis is locked in to come and do a drone video. It doesn't help me for selling shares before then, but the shares of the horses that are left, Merchant Man's going to sell himself. He should. Horn Player is sold out. I think Landing Strip is sold out. Una Madonna certainly is. Carter Michael Dio is another horse that looked great. And I've told you guys from the start, there are some shares of Captain in the Air. I guess I'm just going to start releasing them little by little. Captain in the Air looked fantastic. I hope he was up with the drone at that point. My God, this horse looks good. Even Mary and the people at the fence like, "Wow, who's that?" I said, "It's Captain in the Air." Enzo, his horse, he was there for him. He looked good yesterday too. Lady All-Star did her work well. As I said, Silent Assassin was fantastic. Tailgate Buzz, need to work on him a little bit. He looked great on the track, but just green. Shockingly, he's been broke for 5 days, Anthony. So, Twin Cedars All-Star went with everybody. Everybody kept asking, who's that little guy? I said, that's the Illinois Colt. He's beautiful on the track, got a beautiful gait. I'm going to start going with him a little more regularly because he has a little more work in than the other horses. And then another horse that Mario liked and everybody was interested to see is Warrawee Yuri. He looked awesome. He's a little lazy on the track. I think we're going to geld this guy. Not for any more reason than I just want to get him squared away from day 1. He's too big to be goofing off, to be doing anything wrong. And he doesn't. But I think if we castrate him, shoe him properly up front behind, need to take a little weight off of him up front. He's got a big, huge gait. Take a little bit weight off him up front. And maybe slide his shoes back, put a little longer shoe on him behind, because he does have long pasterns behind. I think what we see is we start putting the work into him and asking him to do more. It won't be a problem. He is, again, a very good-looking horse. I suspect, I guess if you're going to make me say, Merchant Man, I know I could train him in 245 right now, which I'm not going to do, but I could. And he's the only horse in the entire barn that could do that right now. He is a very fluid, very impressive-looking horse, and a very happy Father Patrick. We've had some of them before that have been cranky. Not this guy. He's good at his work and he loves his work. This is a good looking colt. But The two most visually pleasing horses. No, there's three. No, there's four. Four. That's not counting Captain in the Air, but he's not pacing. He's trotting it there. 4 horses on the trot. Merchant Man just does his work very, very well. The 4 horses on the trot that are the most pleasing to watch. Landing Strip looks good. Una Madonna looks very, very good. Horn Player looks very impressive. But I think the most, as I said, visually pleasing horse for me is Carter Michael Dio. He looks incredibly good. This is the International Money Colt. So let's see, what do we got here? Merchant Man's a Father Patrick. Landing Strip is a tactical landing. Horn Player, tactical landing. Una Madonna, tactical landing. So for those of you out there saying, oh, I don't know about the tactical landings, I can tell you they all trot nice, the ones that we got. They're very, very good looking horses. So if nothing else, the takeaway for this week, we'll get Globetrotting back on track. You don't have to worry about that. We will get High Gear No Fear sprung together properly, put together properly, and racing the way we expect them to race for horses we bought him to be in the very near future. And I think the biggest takeaway from this video, from this week, for this year, for me, is the hard work and the diligence. Although it wasn't verified and validated in purse money, you can see what kind of horse 3-point blue chip is going to be, and I couldn't be more proud of the people associated with the stable.ca, what they've done and how they have allowed this horse to be the horse he is. So he will have one more race, more than likely a prep race for a race we may not even get in. We may not get in the race, but we have to be ready to go if we're allowed. So on the 10th and the 13th, you're going to see a prep race for a 3-point blue chip. He will be on Lasix. And hopefully, if we're lucky, I'd love to get to race this guy in the Valley Victory. The odds are low, but as I said, we have to be ready to answer the door if somebody knocks, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So that's your opening video. I'm just so pumped. And again, I say this in every video, but I'll say it again. Thank you so much for your trust and confidence in us here at the stable. We're well on our way. There is a path that is now lit heading to Harrisburg where, if we sell enough shares, if everything works out right, by the time we get to Harrisburg, we should have all the sales that we bought horses in paid for by the time we get to Harrisburg. That has never been the case before, and just so pleased that I can see a way forward right there for us. So thank you all very, very much again. And for the people that have bought horses since they've opened up in Ontario, thank you. Still a little peeved that the buckets didn't sell as quickly as they did, but you can see how good they are. Oh, and for those of you out there, what the hell is the name of that horse? The colt that we just bought. Ava and Ollie can remember his name all the time. He got home. He looked fantastic. I got a video of him being broke also. I can't remember his name. The Muscle Mass colt we bought in London, hip number 112. He looked absolutely great on the track today. So Steve was there with his drone, and I said, here, you want to see how we break horses? Put the harness on him. He goofed around for a minute, brought him out, walked him out in the yard, put the bridle on him, put the jog cart on him, out the door we went. He went up on the track, jogged around 3 laps, and he looked fantastic. So pleased with him. So you got him and that pacer in the bottom bucket. We got Lady All-Star, who I believe we have a video of. She looked awesome today too. She and Cunning Connie look great too. They're in the middle bucket. And then Warwi Yuri and Gandalf the Black. 3, I'm very, very happy with what we ended up with so far in Ontario. A couple other private horses coming in this week. We're creeping up to that watermark of 50 already. I really didn't think we'd get there this year. So pretty pumped about that. Pretty pumped about the year we've had. But looking at 3-point, looking at the horses we've acquired, as optimistic and happy as I am about 2021 and the remainder of it, I think it even pales in comparison to what I'm thinking about for 2022. Looking at the horses that we bought, looking at the pedigrees that we have, looking at the way they've been broke and how they seem on the track, I couldn't be happier than I am right now heading into 2022. That's for sure. So with that, I'll let you guys go. It's starting to rain here a little bit. The sun's going down. I have a ton of videos left to do. I'm going to start getting to them right now. Take care.